Visualizing this and walking through this ahead of time can help save your life and mitigate this. And then the awareness and teamwork aspect of working in a parish or a church is going to help you guys come together in this scenario to stop it before it happens. Pick up on it early, attack the problem, and save lives. Ultimately, action is what's going to make the difference here. And that's what made the difference with that camera guy stepping up, bear hugging him, clearing, controlling, and trying to mitigate the threat.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. Our informational content cannot address all dangerous situations and cannot guarantee your survival or prevent injuries when the unexpected happens. The decision to carry a firearm, either for recreation or for personal defense, carries the risk and potential for injury and/or death. Therefore, it is advised that you seek out and acquire proper training before using a firearm or any firearm-related product.
What are some self-defense techniques?
What would happen if there was a global internet outage?
What should I do if I hear shots ringing out?
Or what I should do if there's a major terrorist attack?
What should I have? What's the best?
What should I do?
What does that look like?
What would you recommend?
Is there anything I could do?
All right, guys, welcome back to Dangerous Questions, Everyday Carry Part 2. EDC, everyday carry, what we're utilizing on a daily basis is something that's a hot topic right now. And there's a lot to dive into. There's a lot to understand. And we're getting some great questions from you guys that are listening to these things and applying them to your life. That's what we can hope for. That's my hope for this whole series, is that we're engaging with you and just getting you to take it a little bit more seriously so that you become that asset. You become that guy or girl that's going to be able to step up and use this stuff when your life is on the line. This is Dangerous Questions, an IRONCLAD original. Let's go. All right, guys, this first question has to do with blades. And as you guys know, I carry a blade every single day. Let's see what the question is, and we'll break it down.
Hey guys, I know you offer courses in blade work, and I was just wondering if maybe you could demonstrate a couple of basic principles and the blades you would typically like to keep with you in different situations around your house or maybe in your car. Thanks.
Awesome. So asking the question of, you do blade work, you do blade training, you apply this to your life, what are some basic things that I can do? What are some basic principles? You guys know I talk about principles all the time because combatives, blade work, firearms, it really is made up of principles. So if we apply those to our life, we're going to be able to anchor on them often. And one of those principles that I apply is using a fixed blade. I carry fixed blades exclusively. If I'm going to use them to save my life or to rely on them with my life, it's going to be a fixed blade. Really, a folding knife is a broken knife, and I use it for opening up boxes, slicing paper, whatever tool that I need it for. I kind of think of that as the same category as I would like a razor blade, a utility knife. It's kind of the same area where fixed blades is what I carry on a daily basis. If we think about the other principle of carrying every day, and we're going to utilize a fixed blade or an everyday carry knife, we need to think of something. And that's that warriors, since blades have been created, have carried them. They've used them for hunting, for application for building, for self-defense, for all types of purposes. There's probably not a day that goes by that I don't use some type of blade or knife for a different purpose. When I think about the way that I'm carrying them, I typically think of the ones that I'm carrying, my fixed blades that I have on me on a daily basis. This is what I'm using to protect myself. That stays sheathed unless my life is on the line and I need it for a very specific or important purpose. As opposed to the folding blade that I have that could be utilized to open up a box or a mundane thing. Jack Carr talks about it all the time where he's opening up something, he uses different blades now, but typically we say don't use the one you're going to protect yourself with to open up a box. That's just the standard, mindset to have. But also the fact that if you're deciding to carry, well, that's a responsibility. If you're deciding to carry on a daily basis, you now are applying that responsibility and that duty to your life. Think about it that way. Take it seriously, knowing that you have a tool on you that could take and save lives. Just like a firearm, you got to up your game. You should become better just by making the decision to carry on a daily basis. Just by the decision to say, you know what, I'm going to carry a blade. Well, are you getting the right training? Are you applying the right mindset? Are you doing it for the right reasons? Just like Chad and I talked about in the last episode, why are you open carrying? What's the purpose? Well, just the same thing. I'm going to ask you about why you're concealed carrying. What's the purpose and what are you trying to accomplish? Answer that first. The other thing too about principles is reverse grip carry. That's one that I talk about often. And for you guys to take that away is our blades are designed to carry in reverse grip. Now you can carry them in forward grip as well because there are different fighting styles out there. But one of the principles that I think guys that are just getting into blades, if they have the right blade, they have the right fixed blade, is using it in reverse grip is really important. Why? On the surface level, it allows you to grapple and keep close quarters better. I can hook grip. You know, I often demo where if I have two blades, I can get up on a pull-up bar and literally pull the pull-up bar to my chest with two blades in my hand. That's how much strength that I have. As opposed to this, I cannot hook anything with forward grip. So it's less advantageous from a close-in perspective where I can flank better, I can pull in better, I can clinch better. And to me, from a self-defense scenario, that's way better than forward grip. So apply that principle to self-defense carry, set up in the orientation where you can carry reverse grip. And again, our blades are made to carry in an ambidextrous manner. That means if you're a forward grip guy or gal and you apply that type of fighting, great, good. But you can also use it in reverse grip. I carry everything in a reverse grip setup. The other thing too about these is that it's a force multiplier. That is a principle in itself where if you think about close-in grappling, you know, somebody forcing themselves, you know, grabbing you, trying to put you in a clinch. Well, if I have this and I can pull it out, I now have that get off me tool, a puncture tool to apply pressure that I wouldn't necessarily have on my own, especially if it's in tight. You know, I don't want to get in that position to begin with. We want to mitigate that, but say if it happens that way, somebody ambushes me, clips me in the chin, I stumble, fall to my feet, and they get in the mount, and now they're hammering me and they start bear hugging me. Well, if I have other people involved in this fight as well, and they're in the background and I'm starting to see that, if I can pull this thing out and get that guy off of me and start manipulating them to be able to get in a better position, I'm going to use it to do that. Again, think about the blade as that force multiplier, that ability to add an element in your environment that's going to give you more leverage, more strength, more penetration, and essentially more pain compliance to that person. Just like hitting them or making yourself effective with your hand, it just adds another layer to your self-defense system. You know, you want to be intimate with that. You want to know that really, really well. The other thing too is you have the ability to use it for anything else that could come up. I mean, there are multiple scenarios in your life that having a blade, not just for self-defense, can be useful. You know, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be out there cutting a seatbelt or something, but there are things that happens that are unknown all the time. You know, we talked about different blades. You know, what are some of the different blades that I have? Well, right now I have the Dynamis blade. This is kind of the standard go-to everyday carry and combat blade to be able to go from combat to concealed, concealed to combat. I want to be able to transition that blade on me seamlessly. Well, some of the other blades that I have are a Neptune blade, which if I'm thinking about using this in any type of water environment, now I have a blade that can go in the water. The reason I'm talking about the dive blade next is because there was a scenario that I was in the surf zone where we had a line out there stretched, I don't know, probably about 200 or 300 yards. And I had kelp get all wound up in that line. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that ball eventually ended up grabbing onto me and started to pull me down under the surf and in the undertow. And I ended up pulling my blade out in that mess, and it was a mess. And I'm in the surf zone, so things are all over the place and it's dynamic. But I pulled that blade out, and even in the surf zone, that thing was all over the place trying to anchor myself on that line. But I'm not sure if I wasn't able to cut that line free that I would have got out of that big kelp mess with my leg getting bound up in it, and I was able to free myself. Those little things could be really, really difficult if you're just trying to use your hands or whatever else you have to cause friction, where having a blade was much easier to do and effective in that sense of saving my life. So think about your blade as a tool that you don't need it until you do. And it's an asset to you guys in scenarios that are unforeseen when you add those types of variables. The other blade that I have is more of a compact version. This is the Razorback. And the Razorback has more of a compact grip. Why do we offer a wide variety of blades? Well, because to me, a blade is one of those things that you should always have, and there's different contexts and scenarios that you should have them. If I'm diving, well, that's more of a water type blade. If it's in the summer and I have my board shorts on, that's more of a compact grip. If I'm doing something on duty or I have something more deliberate that I'm accomplishing, I want a full size grip. So you asked the question about if I'm in my home or if I'm in my vehicle, what type of blades should I have around me? And again, remember, on your body is the best place possible. There is no other answer that's better than that. Your A+ is to be anchored to you on your waistband so you have quick access to it. We talked with Chad last episode about being anchored. That's one of the principles about your blade. Are you anchoring your blade to your waistband? That's what this clip is for. Having this zero clip with this minimalistic sheath that grabs on is now anchored. If you looked at my jeans and most of the stuff that I wear, there's a hole there from this cloth grabber wearing out that hole because it grabs on so tightly. That's a method of anchoring. So if whatever your setup is, you want to make sure the blade you're carrying is anchored. So if you have things set up in your home and you think you're going to use them for self-defense, they still need to be anchored. Even if that means that it's by your nightstand and it's anchored in the drawer to something else, you want to make sure that you can access them and you can reference them at night with no visibility to be able to go and say, okay, I know exactly where my blade is and I can pull it out and deploy it effectively for whatever the case is or whatever the scenario might be. There's options with these blades. And if you're going to choose to carry on a daily basis, you've got to find something that works for you, for your frame, your setup. But again, going back to the original question is, that's why we offer online training. Get the reps in. If you plan on using it and you plan on deploying it, you plan on drawing it, make sure that you're training that way. It doesn't take much to get a trainer to go out there. That's why we offer trainers for everything that we sell, is that get a trainer, go in your garage, get the reps in. If you think you're going to draw that way, practice that way. If you think you're going to keep the blade in your vehicle, keep the blade in your vehicle that way and then practice that way. Make sure you can access it in the moment the fight goes down. Those are a couple of key principles. Ultimately, out of all of this, violence of action is going to be your friend. You know, you want to be able to deploy these things effectively. And what does that mean? It means get training, get effective. Repetition is king in everything that we do to apply that, whether you're under stress or an unknown scenario. So it's a great question, but blades goes pretty vast as far as the knowledge of understanding what to wear, how to apply it, and what training to get. And it's a lifestyle. That's why I said warriors have always carried blades. So make it a point for you guys that if you choose to do that, you take it seriously and apply it to your life and change your lifestyle. Great question. I love talking about blades, and keep sending the blade stuff in because we can sit here and geek out all day. But let's get to the next question. All right, guys, that last question we talked about blades, but what about principles for carrying a firearm or carrying a pistol? So we've got a great question, and I think it's going to create a lot of clarity for guys that are wondering the same thing. So let's see what it is.
Hey Dom, I was wondering, what is the key to a clean pistol draw?
All right, so pretty pointed question. What's the key principle to a clean pistol draw? Because if we're carrying on a daily basis, the bottom line is that we need to get the gun out and we need to get it out now, right? So if we're identifying a threat, that's why we carry. That's why we want to know we can take care of ourselves and we train. But if the threat appears and we say, this is a life-threatening scenario and I need to deploy my gun, what's the key thing that I'm thinking about? Number one key principle for drawing your gun is make sure that you are winning the fight. And what I mean by that is that if we're in a combative scenario, it might sound kind of silly on the surface, but if I'm in a combative scenario and I'm in arm's length distance of somebody, I need to make sure that I'm clear and free of anything that's going to foul up my draw before I choose to pull it out. We talk about the 3 types of draws. There's a discrete draw, there is a dynamic draw, and then there's a combative draw. Those are the 3 main categories that you have to think of. Now, winning the fight in all 3 of those categories is the key scenario. And when I'm talking about the fight, about your draw, it very simply is am I free and clear with anything else going on around me? And am I going to be able to manipulate the material of my clothing and the reference points clear enough to make sure that I get my gun in the right reference points of my grip to get it out online, wherever that may be. Maybe it's at retention, maybe it's here, point shooting, or maybe I'm all the way pressed out, aimed down my sights, and I'm sighted shooting a target. I have to make sure that this is clear. When whatever fight is going on, if it's a hand fight, I've got to clear those out of the way. What I don't want to do is have anybody's hands on or around my hip area when I choose to draw, because we've all seen scenarios on YouTube or wherever else, that gun quickly becomes theirs and not yours anymore. And we want to avoid that at all costs. I'd rather not draw and get clear before I choose to pull it out and not have good control of my gun. So to get a clean draw, you need to make sure that whatever's going on around you is clean and you're moved offline. If somebody's got both arms on me, maybe it's as simple as changing positions where one of his buddies is pulling out a blade or a bat and they're trying to take my car keys, or my kid's strapped into the vehicle, where I just move him offline and now I have the ability to draw. I have a blue gun on me right now for the purposes of this demo, but ultimately I have him offline. Now I can take shots on him or them, or move him out of the way completely and get the gun up online if I need to. That's what I want everybody to think about. So you're not rushing into your draw, which ultimately is going to get fouled up or pushed offline, or now they know you have a gun. So make sure you have a clean environment with winning whatever fight is in front of you within arm's length distance. Win the fight, hit whatever needs to be hit, and then change to move your gun out, and then get that clean draw. Now, I'll go another layer deeper just in case you guys seem to think that that's totally obvious and that you would do that anyway. Okay, fine. Say the fight is already won, or at least the combative fight that's in front of you. That's what I need to do a clean draw. But let's say that that's cleared out already. Now, this guy is starting to draw his gun or start shooting people. I walk into a door and people are being taken out. Bang, bang, bang. Well, that means now I am in a dynamic draw where all that matters is that I get my gun out, up online, and take accurate shots immediately, or more people are going to continue to die. How do I do that? Well, for me, I'm in my fighting position, right? I want to get there. I want to be there. I want to stay there. I want to be in my fighting stance as often as possible in environments like that. I hear gunshots go off. I open up the door. I'm in my fighting stance, and now I'm going to start my draw. This becomes your fight. Your fight is your material. And it's nice that I'm wearing a t-shirt right now and I can keep this really simple, but you have to have the ability to understand what you're wearing in order to get that clean draw. What if it's the middle of winter and you've got 6 layers on? Are you practicing to have a clean draw with that material? If you're wearing a t-shirt, great, rep it. If you're wearing a new coat that's brand new and you just got your brand new favorite jean jacket on, have you gone to practice with that material? If you don't have a combative scenario, your combative scenario is the material that you're wearing. For me, the material that I'm wearing is a simple t-shirt. I could add other layers here to show you what I'm talking about, but in order to get a clean draw, you've got to make sure you're practicing with this material. Now, I could go into these techniques, but very simply, I want to be able to manipulate the material that I have so I clear it out of the way. I'm swimming this material out of the way so I have clear and direct access to my pistol so I can get a master grip and then start my draw. We have got to take care of that material, guys. And if you've got a different body type, a different figure, different athleticism, maybe you have shoulder issues, maybe you need to hit the gym more, whatever the case is, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Go get the reps in. Find a blue gun, get your setup, know that that's the way you're going to draw, and know that you can confidently get the material out of the way. This is my combat now. I've cleared everything out immediately. Now I have to deal with this. Maybe I've got multiple jackets on. I really got to work to get the material up and get my master grip and then start my draw and take shots if I need to. And finish my scan, go through the reps, just like we talk about in the combative pistol courses. You know, we have Pistol Work 1 on our website to talk about these exact things. Clean draws are important. What we don't want is this gun ending up on the floor so we're staring at it and staring at the bad guy. That's the last thing. We have got to keep control of this. We don't want it turned on us or the ones that we love. So getting that clean draw is absolutely essential. That's the base level of knowledge of what I think it's going to take to have a clean draw. Win the fight in front of you. If you don't have anything combative, win the fight with your material, know your material, get the reps in, and apply it to your lifestyle. It's a great question. Apply it, and again, get the reps. Let's get to the next one. Hey guys, what's up? This segment of Dangerous Questions is brought to you by Snake Staff Systems. If you guys have heard me talk about them before, they make low-profile tourniquets, and I always say there's no excuse not to have a tourniquet on you, and these guys nailed it with being able to have something on you at all times. Go check them out at snakestaffsystems.com. No excuses. All right, guys, Dangerous Questions scenario time. My favorite part of the episode. This one was very recent, and I'm going to tell you that it's not going away anytime soon. So it's something that if you guys are listening to this and you take your life seriously about what you're doing, especially with your faith, your family, and your self-defense, this is one to pay attention to, and I'm going to break it down. Let's see what it is. This scenario that we're getting ready to break down was very recent. This guy is up there preaching. There's an unknown in the church that goes right up to the pulpit and has a gun aimed out right at the guy. And this scenario is something that people think of all over the place. I mean, I get questions all the time. Hey, Dom, what are you going to do if this happens? What should I be thinking about? What should I be looking for? So this happens in the middle of a church, and I'm telling you guys, this is something that we need to pay attention to. So anytime where the truth is proclaimed, you know, there's going to be opposition. So let's watch the video.
Pointing right at me, and at that point, all I could do was
all right, so you guys can see in this video, very, very, very fast this scenario happens. Go ahead and pause it. So this guy is up there on the pulpit. He's talking. It's a regular day. He's not expecting anything like this to happen. And then boom, the guy comes into frame with a gun already pointed out. Now, what I'm hearing is that the gun jammed, right? God's divine intervention in that very moment, the gun did not go off. Now, one guy that was behind the camera, this was actually the videographer that did this, was the first one to pick up on it, or at least did something about it, went and decided to tackle the guy as best as he could. He didn't know what he was doing. He just went for it and said, I'm going to be the difference today. I'm going to do something to mitigate this threat and wrap this guy up. So what is the key thing here? First, let's accept our reality. It's the reality we live in today, and I'm telling you, it's been happening. It's going to keep happening. If you're going to church and this is important to you, and you're running a security team, or you're a regular churchgoer or a parishioner, you have got to understand what's going on with these scenarios. You know, if it happens in your church, what are you going to do about it? And I think that this is where we need to realistically take a look at who are we going to church with? Do we know the guys we're going to church with? You know, I know for me personally, when I go to church, it's my one opportunity in the week to get on my knees and have that conversation with God, and to be at peace and to be focused on what God's asking me to do. So if you're living with that, you know, one eye open, one eye closed type attitude there, you might not find that type of peace. And I think that that's where teamwork is so important within a church, to say, look, this is a realistic scenario. You know, if I've got guys on the outskirts that are running, I'm like, hey, it's your day. You're the one looking out for this today. And we have that understanding within each parish and each church. Everywhere is going to be different. But what is my point? My point is to know who you're going to church with. Know your environment. Step up. Things like this can be mitigated way before they start, way before that guy gets up on their altar. Why? Principle number one, awareness. Having the ability to pick up on these things way before they occur. You know, my church, I don't know about your guys' church, but it is packed on the weekend. And it is going to be very, very, very difficult to point out somebody that's not supposed to be there. In fact, We welcome people to come to church, right? That's why we go to church, to bring people with us, to invite them there and open our arms. But at the same time, you can kind of feel different types of behavior. Now, this guy could have blended all the way in until he was all the way up, right until he comes into frame. And that might be the case. Understanding how to deal with this threat and understanding how to get hands-on is what's going to separate this. Having the confidence to know how to do that. If I see a guy all of a sudden pop up in front of me that I can mitigate that threat and get up and put my hands on, I'm going to do that. But it takes training and understanding and working jiu-jitsu and working grappling. That is all going to build your guys' confidence. And that takes rep, that takes responsibility. It takes discipline. But it is something that you cannot shy away from. If you think you're going to be the guy, granted, this guy stepped up to do something, and I absolutely commend him for that. Anybody that steps up in these types of scenarios is a hero. They're going to be the guy that stops something bad from happening. Say he let a shot go off and missed, and he had, to get his stuff together to re-aim. Well, you at least got somebody ambushing him from the back. So increase your level of training, increase your level of knowledge so we can work as a team together. If you guys are applying awareness, what does that mean in church? What does that mean in these types of scenarios? Are you looking around? If this guy was on the camera, he's clearly watching what's happening. He doesn't have his head down. He's watching to make sure he knows what's going on in frame, which caused him to be the one to get up there and do something about it. Now, he bear hugs him. And again, grappling. We've got to know what we're doing when we get hands-on. I've got the gun out of the way, clear, control, crush, clear my body of the line of attack, or the guy that's up there in the pulpit, control the firearm, which he's really trying to do here. Now, it malfunctioned, and the whole time it was pointed back towards the crowd. I am personally going to try to mitigate that. I don't want that gun aiming back towards my family or anybody else in the church. So these are the types of principles of why we train and why we can apply those here. And then now, the third principle is crush. Well, do we need to crush this guy after he's gained control? Obviously, these guys chose to get control of the pistol and mitigate the fight. And, there's even a conversation that happens here after the fact where the guy's detained, he was in the car. We talk about spiritual warfare all the time, and this guy was asked, why did you do that? And he's like, I have no idea why I did that. I just felt the need to get up there and shoot that guy that day. And again, it's not a scenario that's unrealistic. So we have to at least confront it for what it is. It's very raw. I mean, you look at that. The gun's in your face all of a sudden. You were preaching 1 minute, and now the gun's in your face. His reaction up there really wasn't that bad. Tony Blair talks about it all the time, about the flinch response. He saw the danger, he picked up on it right away, he puts his hands in front of his face and starts to move. Now, the closest thing that he can move behind is that podium. And so there's really not much more that he could have done with that type of distance in between him and the shooter. And maybe he had something he could have thrown at him, but he had nothing. He was literally standing out there. I'll get back to the point where he's just right up there, right when the initial contact happens. I mean, he is exposed. This is why working together as a team, as a parish, is so important. For me personally, if I didn't have another firearm up there, and again, you don't want to draw an already drawn gun in that scenario, but for me, I probably would have started moving in the way that I could flank him or get a better position, or just continue to draw his firearm towards me and not everybody else in the crowd. Again, how can I protect everybody else? He had another guy back there to his right, over his right shoulder. Is he thinking to himself, I'm going to protect that guy too and move away from everybody? Maybe the podium was the driving factor. But the more you can visualize that stuff ahead of time, the more it's going to help you. If you're a preacher, a priest, somebody that speaks at public events often, this is really good knowledge for you to apply to your life, to go up there and say, where am I going right now in this public environment? Am I going to shift gears if somebody starts pointing a gun at me right away? Can I mitigate everybody else's risk in this environment by moving here and finding cover? Maybe you already know where your cover is. Maybe there's things behind that podium that are cover. Maybe there's books stacked up in there, whatever the case may be. Visualizing this and walking through this ahead of time can help save your life and mitigate this. And then the awareness and teamwork aspect of working in a parish or a church is going to help you guys come together in this scenario to stop it before it happens. Pick up on it early, attack the problem, and save lives. Ultimately, action is what's going to make the difference here. And that's what made the difference with that camera guy stepping up, bear hugging him, clearing, controlling, and trying to mitigate the threat. As professionals that know this stuff in and out, we want to do everything we can to get that gun from not pointing it at anybody. But action ultimately could be what makes the difference from somebody losing their life and somebody saving their life. At the end of this, know your role and use your instinct. And what I mean by that is identify your role. If you're working together in an environment, church or not, identify that and apply it and live it out. Practice it. Talk about it with your guys. And trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, there's a good chance it's not. And I'd rather take action on something that is nothing than just brush it off and say, it's no big deal. My instincts are just, playing tricks on me today. And then it develops into something that takes somebody else's life. Be proactive by listening to that. It happens for a reason. And again, guys, remember, this is something that we're not going to see the last of. Make sure that we've got a plan, visualize the plan, communicate with the guys around you, and implement that ASAP. I don't think we can talk about this enough. I'm sure it's not the last time we're going to talk about it here, and hopefully that adds a little bit of insight about what you can be doing differently in these types of scenarios. All right, guys, next scenario. I always talk about being in that 7-Eleven type of environment. We can all visualize being right here. And this environment happens where a guy's wielding the gun. He turns his back to the guy sweeping the floor for whatever reason, and that was his opportunity to act. He realized in that moment, he's like, I'm going to be the guy to take action, and I'm going to try to control this gun. Now, they're going back and forth here, and this is where training and instinct and visualization is going to help you guys, because at some point, this guy starts to realize that, wait a minute, maybe this isn't a real gun. And if you have enough training, sometimes you can just grab something and be like, wait a minute, that feels like a piece of plastic or a BB gun, or you can just tell by looking at it, it's not real. And that happens often. So know that by exposing yourself to these types of trainings, you're going to be able to identify that earlier and often. Good on the guy for taking action and grabbing this dude to mitigate this risk. He felt like that was his day. He's like, my instinct is telling me to go for it. So he wraps this guy up, keeps him tight. The other thing too is about protecting himself. He gets smashed over the head. I'm not sure exactly where that bottle came from. I think maybe he had it in his hand already, which ultimately gave him cuts on the top of his head. But he uses it to try to smash backwards, where if you're going to go grab somebody from the back, you really do have to make sure that you're protecting yourself and staying in tight so they don't do that. They don't use an improvised weapon or their environment. But what's the main goal here? Control, guys. Control, control, control. We don't want to ever lose. You see, almost get like a lackadaisical, attitude here. They're like, oh, it's not a real gun. Okay, well, be on your way now. Where he still tries to throw a shot at him. You still have to protect yourself, but the dynamic certainly changed at that point. But make sure that you're protecting yourself. Even if you decide to close the gap, you've got to control where that firearm is. Do not let up once you're identifying that's the gun, that's the hand where it's got the gun. Control that limb, stay tight, and do everything you can to try to mitigate risk to yourself and everybody else around you by maybe you're having to crush this guy, maybe you continue to control him, or maybe eventually you break contact for whatever reason. In this case, he identifies that it's not a real gun. So guns out, lives are at stake here. I always have to talk about this because we want the ability to know that we can walk away too. Could the guy have just gotten a couple of bucks and walked out? Could he have made the decision to say, you know what, maybe that was a real gun. I could have gotten a lot more hurt than I originally had anticipated. What's the answer? Always going to throw it back to you guys and using your best instinct. But don't leave the option off the table to walk away. Maybe this was a place where I was sweeping the floor. Guy comes in with a gun. Oh, this looks like it's pretty serious. Maybe I'm carrying a gun of my own. Maybe I'm not. But I'm backing up out of the way to the point where I can see what's going on in the cash register. The guy working the cash register just says, here's a couple $100, man. Have a good day. And he goes, thanks very much. Have a nice one. See you soon. That's the A+ answer because nobody got hurt and everybody walked away okay. So when you're visualizing these things, It's good to think that you're going to be the hero and you're going to take action. I commend people for having that type of mindset. And I always want to have the fight mindset first, but leave the option open to say, maybe we can all walk away from this. Let him go. Love the guy unconditionally until he gives you a reason not to. If you're always asking for cash, give him some cash. And then maybe he breaks contact. Think about that the next time you're visualizing one of these scenarios in a 7-Eleven so that you and your loved ones can walk away without getting hurt. All right, we know we're going to see more scenarios like this in the future because a lot of things happen at the 7-Eleven, don't they? Let's see what the next one is. All right, so pause here. For you guys listening in the vehicle or listening by audio, we have a scenario where it's out in town. There was a groping or assault type scenario with a male and female, and ultimately this girl wasn't going to have it and decided to do something about it. Now, I didn't see the context before this, but that seems to be what's taking place here, is this girl's fighting back. She's saying, nope, it's not, you're not going to get away with this today. I got to do something about it and defend myself. She ends up putting this guy in kind of a more of an air choke lock, but it's still extremely uncomfortable. And she's got good manipulation because she gets him down to his knees. So she's got some force being applied. She's putting her body weight down. That's a good thing. And this is where grappling, manipulation is really going to come into play, because there are a lot of scenarios that are diffused by wrapping somebody up by the neck, dragging them out, and either choking them out until they're not a problem anymore, or putting them in some type of pain compliance that allows you to escalate to the next level. So the other guy did something very similar, not as effective as her, but the principle was there. It was from the back. The difference is that this guy doesn't have a firearm. But understanding how to manipulate somebody else, I always call it human chess, BJJ, wrestling, manipulation, judo. Learn some level of manipulation. That will increase your confidence. Clearly, this girl is at least taking action, even if she doesn't have any training here, to put her body weight down and just say, enough's enough, I'm not going to take it. We've seen statistics in the past where somebody that actually just fights is the one that survives. The first person out of 100, there were scenarios that were happening where the first person out of 100 decided to fight back, they survived and got away, as opposed to everybody else who was murdered and or raped. So action is the key to protecting ourselves and our life. In this scenario where we only get to see half the story, she at least fought back and said, I'm not going to be the one, I'm not going to be the victim today. I'm going to do something about it and wait till somebody else shows up. Now, the other thing that was really irritating about this is that we saw several people walk by doing nothing. Oh, look at this guy. What is he holding, a pizza? Are we serious here? I mean, what's going on? This guy, the pizza's hot. He doesn't want the pizza to fall. God forbid the guy actually does something with himself. I mean, what? I don't even know what to say. People are just doing, she's got her coffee, the other guy's got his pizza. There's absolutely I would absolutely jump in here and try to help this girl and say, what's going on here? Especially if I saw it unfold, to try to help her reduce the risk to herself. So just something to keep in mind. Do something. There's way too many people in this world that are just passing by and doing nothing. But good on her for taking action and mitigating this. So I want you guys to take away from those points, learn from them, know that taking action is important, and make sure that you guys are getting training in. Again, guys, I know in these scenarios we cover a lot of principles, a lot of talking points. I try to take them to a level where you can understand some of these points, go deep on some of these other training points, but apply something to your life. Even if you're reviewing this video over and over again, and if you're listening by audio, make sure you go take the time to check it out on YouTube as well, to be able to get those visual reps in, because they are just as important, and you're going to take away valuable lessons here. Guys, again, we can't say thank you enough for you guys that are sending these questions in, because it really makes the show. That's why the show is what it is, because we knew there was a need out there. I want to continue to bring my life experiences that I've put my life on the line for you guys, thinking about these things day and night, blood, sweat, and tears, so you guys can walk away with something better to break these things down. God bless all of you. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for supporting IRONCLAD. Thank you for supporting Dangerous Questions. This is a journey. We're on it together, and I always say we're just getting started, but we truly couldn't do it without you, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.